Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Pokemon Gold. This is kind of a impromptu video. What we're going to be doing in this video is I'm just going to be taking a quick look at some of the pretender gods that are available in this mod, specifically for Cyanwood City. I had a user on YouTube point out that I kind of just glossed over pretender design in the Turn 0 video. Which is fine in and of itself, but since this is a mod and it doesn't really, or it has so much different stuff to it, not being able to see some of the different pretender options was kind of a bummer. Right, so that's all we're gonna do. We're just gonna jump in and take a look at some of the pretenders for the game. So this is the pretender list for Cyanwood City. As I understand it, I've played a couple of single-player games with other Pokemon cities, and I've played one other multiplayer game. The majority of this tends to be the same for most of the cities, right? Basically, your Monstrous, your Awake Expanders, right, and your Titan chassis tend to be the same for most Pokemon cities. Your badge tends to change, and your your rainbows tend to change. So let's take a look at some of this, shall we? We're gonna skip all of the regular ones. We don't care about it. So, oh, and let me pull this up real quick. I'm gonna have the inspector up so I can reference, because some of these have some special abilities that aren't clearly marked when it comes to the actual the in-game elements, the in-game UI. Cyanwood City here. Oh, there's okay, so we've got the Storm Badge. So the Storm Badge is actually what I'm using in the game for Pokemon Gold. And it's just kind of your basic immobile. It does have innate spellcaster. The path cost for it is actually pretty good. So if we take a look here, it matches the Statue of War. So you can get some pretty good path cost, which is why I was able to get a couple of different things, since it comes out with such a decent spread. But nothing super crazy about this, nothing super interesting. The interesting stuff is when we get down into the Titans and the Awake Expanders. So this is the Storm Badge. So let's jump into some of the Titan chassis, right? Pretty cool stuff. So we've got Sabrina's Ego. Most of the, if we click through, right, you'll see most of the Titan chassis come with a little entourage, okay? So Sabrina's Ego is basically just Sabrina, the gym leader, right? She comes with an Alakazam, 2 Jinx, and 3 Mr. Mimes, okay? She's got Earth Astral. She's got Inspiring Researcher, which is pretty dope. She's got Fortune Teller 40, which is pretty cool. All of the Titans should come with Taskmaster, and I believe they all come with Dominion Monster Summoner. So they're all going to summon some Pokemon akin to what they do. So Sabrina has a Mind Blast with 10 ammunition, which is pretty good. And she's got Telekinesis with 15 ammunition, which is also pretty good. 20 Magic Path cost, and 3 Dominion is not too bad. So this is Sabrina. Nothing crazy standout-ish with her stats. They're all good, right? Great hit points, very good stats. You could easily turn her into a super combatant. She does have Mindless, which is a really good trait. She does have Magic Being, which is kind of a bad trait, and she does have Inanimate, which is kind of a bad trait. Air Shield 100. Okay, Titan of Boulder, yay! We got Brock. Yeah. Okay, so he comes with 1 Onyx, 2 Rhydons, 3 Golems. He has Fire, he has Earth, Starts with slash and pierce resistance. Very high shock. Decent fire. 100 air shield. I think most of the Titans come with 100 air shield. Taskmaster and Dominion Summoner. So, again, decent stats all around. Actually, I think these are the same stats. I think this is kind of... I think this is something that probably needs to change. A lot of the super combatants are pretty homogenous when it comes to stats. So. And we've got Misty. She's got 1 Gyarados, 2 Starmies, 3 Tentacruels. She's water, nature. She's amphibious, cold resistant, shield 100. She's got sailing with 999, max size 6. This is actually pretty fucking intense. This is something that is considerable to utilize on some situations. She's got supply bonus. She's got gift of water breathing, 999. I would honestly consider taking her if I was playing Cerulean City. She just makes things, like, she'll fuck people up underwater. So yeah, she's really cool. Again, homogenous stats. Oh, we've got, I can't remember his name, Surge. We've got 1 Pikachu Libre, 2 Raichu Thunderers, and 3 Raichus, which is pretty cool. So he's got fire and air. He's shock resistant, air shield 100, storm power 5, which is a little intense. Taskmaster, storm immunity, and Dominion Monster Summoner. I cannot remember her name. Everyone, like, just yell at me over these names, right? Venusaur, Victory Bills, Vile Plumes. She's got a nice spread with Fire, Astral, and Nature, which is pretty good. She's got all 4, Poison Resistance 25, Air Shield 100, of course. Supply bonus. She's got Defense Organizer 3. This is actually really interesting, especially if you kind of like rainbow her and you head around and you like do a bunch of site searching with her. She actually can afford you, in the early game, she can afford you a little bit of extra value by just bumping your province defense up everywhere as she goes around site searching. And then in the late game, you can super combatant the shit out of her. So, all 4 is pretty fucking intense. Kage, right? That's his name, I think. We've got water, death, and nature. Poison resistance 25, stealthy, which is, so this is the first stealthy Titan that we've seen. Air shield 100. A bunch of survivals, supply bonus, Poison Cloud 6, which is actually really interesting if you're using him as a super combatant, as a like solo super combatant. We've got Venomoth, Beedrills, and Arbok, and otherwise homogenous stats. I haven't actually been looking at, so we got Fist here, Fist here, Fist here, Fist here, Fist here. So Sabrina, her ego was, which she looks a little different. She's the only one who had actual like skills, so that's interesting. So we've got this guy. I can't remember his name either. 1 Charizard, 2 Magmars, 3 Rapidashes, 2 Fire, 1 Astral. Very high research because he has plus 25 Adept Researcher and plus 3 Inspiring Research. Heat 8, Firepower 1. Homogeneous stats. Homogeneous. It's Giovanni! Oh yeah. Okay, so this guy is actually really interesting. So you got a Nidoking, 2 Nidoqueens, 3 Dugtrios. Just in and of itself, this guy can expand very easily, right? Because he actually has a bunch of attacks, right? He's got Earth 2, Death 1. He is stealthy. He has Air Shield 100. He's got Dark Vision. He's got Bring of Fortune 9. Okay? So that's really interesting. He's got a resource bonus of 50, also really interesting. But he causes Unrest, and he's got Chaos Power. And he's got Gold Maker 9. And this is, Gold Maker 9 is kind of whatever. He gets you 9 gold per month. Okay, fine. And that's not bad, don't get me wrong, that's not bad, but it's not something that you can grow exponentially like the Ambroses or other stuff, so. But this is a very interesting unit, like, I could actually see you trying to build something around this. Titan of Zephyr is the air astral version. Otherwise unremarkable. Just flying. We've got our bug catcher. We've got death and nature. Also pretty unremarkable. Scyther, Ariadoses, Butterfrees. Does have supply bonus 20 and siege bonus 50. Otherwise, doesn't matter. I didn't check what comes here. 1 Pidgeot, 2 Knocked Owls, 3 Fearos. These two are kind of, in my opinion, they're just unimpressive comparative to a lot of these people have really interesting bonuses, right? Sailing 999, Storm Power 5 and Storm Immunity. You can try to build something out of that, right? Poison Cloud and Poison Resistance and Stealthy. You can try to build something out of that. These guys don't really have anything. You can't really... I mean, sure, they've got paths, but whatever. Can't really do anything with them. Nothing super unique or anything, right? We got Miltank, 2 Wigglytuffs, and 3 Cleffables. This is the only way I've seen a Miltank in the game, actually. I don't think I've seen a Miltank anywhere else in the game. Earth and 2 Nature, and kind of unimpressive otherwise. Does have Castle Defense bonus 100, but that's not... Okay, sure, fine, whatever. But I don't care about that, you know? Kind of Fog. This guy is actually interesting. So we've got a Gengar, 1 Gengar, 2 Gengars, 3 Gengars. So Ecruteak has this weird sameness where they have multiple versions of a lot of their different ghosts, which is odd, but also kick-ass. We got 1 Astral, 2 Death, Ethereal, very interesting. Stealthy, useful. Invisible, okay, now we're fucking talking. Minus 10 to melee attackers, unless they have Spirit Sight. Ooh, fucking buddy. You can expand out of the gate with this guy, basically. Like, if you have a little bit of a bless, whatever, like, this guy will fucking destroy things. Air Shield 100, he has Spirit Sight, he has Dark Power, okay? He has Death Power, which, Ecruteak, sure, go Death anyways. So this guy's gonna be +3 in all of your fucking territories, and if you put up Darkness, even better. Like, this guy is super cool. I'm actually interested in playing Ecruteak with this guy, honestly. Then we got Chuck. We actually have Chuck, and we didn't go Chuck because it just didn't work out for the concept that we were going, but Chuck is actually interesting. He's got 1 Poliwrath and 5 Poliwraths. He's got 2 Fire and 1 Earth. He's amphibious. He's also got 999 sailing, like Misty does. He's got Storm Power 6, which I don't really know why he has higher Storm Power than Surge does. I think that's kind of dumb. But he also has a Forge bonus 2. Pretty cool. He's got unique attacks. I think he's interesting. I just think some of his bonuses should be tweaked. Storm or Surge should be the Storm guy. I know this is the Titan of the Storm, but is the Titan of Thunder? I don't know. I feel like this shouldn't be the Titan of the Storm. I feel like this should be the Titan of the, I don't know, the Crashing Waves. I don't fucking know. I just don't. This feels like he's getting the best of many worlds. And again, pretty homogenous. Although I think his stats are also just slightly better. Yeah, he just for whatever reason, he also has 16 defense, whereas most of the others have 15 defense. So for whatever reason, Chuck is just slightly more of a badass. Oh fuck. Then we got the Titan of Mineral. We've actually seen this recently. Probably not recently when this video goes live. I've seen this recently in game. This is Pewter City's god. 1 Steelix, 2 Skarmories, 3 Magnetons, 2 Earth, 1 Nature. Supply bonus in the Air Shield, whatever. But Goldmaker 100. That's really interesting, especially considering where we're at in the game, right? We're 70 plus turns into the game, so you got to think this Titan has earned Pewter City over 7,000 gold over the course of the game. That's pretty intense. That honestly, that's a lot of infrastructure. That's a lot of free units, you know? That's really cool. Otherwise, unremarkable, except, again, right, I say otherwise unremarkable, this is still a perfectly wonderful super combatant chassis. Very high hit points, very good stats, very good magic resistance, all slots, etc., right? Still super, super useful in that light. Okay? And in Pewter City's scenario, he has a bunch of paths. A whole bunch of paths. So we got red, we got 1 Charizard, 2 Pikachu Primes, 3 Espeons. This is actually a pretty decent little combo, right? So red has 3 fire, he has fire resistance, only 5, which I think should be buffed. Stealthy, air shield, and he's got seduction. This is weird to me. This seems odd. But okay. And that's really all he has. That's it. That's what he's got. He's a fire 3 seducer. And the rest of his stats are the same. This one feels weird to me. We've got the Titan of Green, 1 Blastoise, 2 Ninetales, 3 Leafeons, which is the Titan of Green, and the spread here, but is water 3. This one is odd to me. We got cold resistance, again, seduction, and stealthy. So the Titan of Red, Titan of Green, and Titan of Blue. So I feel like this is a little mixed, right? I feel like the Titan of Blue should be, or the Titan of Green should be nature, the Titan of Blue should be water. I feel like this is just kicked back a little bit. But I'm going to throw this out here. This guy is just a straight up assassin, but he is the -5 assassin, which is kind of rough. It does cause unrest. So he's got Venusaur, 2 Arcanines, and 3 Umbreons, and he's got poison resistance. So this guy is interesting. I guess in fairness, assassin is just inherently inferior to seduction, because seduction literally is assassination, but with the chance of stealing the target instead of just killing the target. So I guess these 3 are interesting in that right? These seduction. Although I'm interested, right? Like the assassin has -5, and this is a trait amongst all Pokemon, right? All Pokemon assassins have -5 because the nature of Pokemon and Pokemon battles. But we don't have, like, seduction -5. It's not like, you know, the assassins are like, hey, time to Pokemon battle, right? Go, Venusaur! But I guess in the seductions, we don't do that. We go, hey. I guess? I don't really know. It's weird. But that's the Titan of Red, Green, and Blue. Those are the final Titans. After that, it's normal Titans. So I think there is, in the Titans, I think there is a lot of homogenous stats among the Titans. I definitely think the Titans could use a mix-up as far as their different stats go. I think there's a couple of weird things, like the Titan of Green being water and the Titan of Blue being green, right? That type of stuff. That can be tweaked, can be fixed. I feel like things like Chuck having 1 extra point of defense. One, the stats should be all different, so this shouldn't really matter. But Chuck being the Titan of Storm, but having fire, but being amphibious, but being storm powered, it's all over the place, right? Like that just seems a little weird to me. And there are some Titans in here that ability wise are just unremarkable, right? A couple of Titans have really cool abilities, like Heat 8, Firepower, Inspiring Researcher, and Adept Researcher. Or fucking Giovanni over here with fucking resource bonus and bringer of fortune, but he's causes unrest. That's cool, right? Kage being fucking... Oh, wait, it's not Kage. Who's the one? This guy being fucking invisible. Those are cool things that you could try to build around those. And then you get like Zephyr and Hive, and there's just kind of like, okay, we don't really have anything. Like, give this guy, if his shtick is gonna be supply bonus, give this motherfucker like 100 supply bonus. This guy just carries around armies on his back. He doesn't care, right? It doesn't care if the land around him is a barren wasteland. He will feed his army, right? Do something like that. Like give this guy fucking magic carpet. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a scenario. But if he's the flying guy, right? Patrol bonus 50, that's his special thing? That's so weak. Like, you're gonna have your god patrolling? That's what? No, get out of here. Like, I don't know. Some of these feel very meh, and others feel really cool. The stats need to be mixed up. A couple of weird things need to be tweaked, etc. So, what else do we have? Let's jump into the Awake Expanders. So, we've got Snorlax. He's a big bowl of hit points. That is pretty much it. So, he's got Nature 2. He's got Regeneration 5% built in. He's got some decent resistances built in. He is a Trampler, a size 5 Trampler. Okay, so keep that in mind with his attacks. He's got Recuperation. He's got Gluttony, 380. And I actually think this makes him unplayable. Really do. Like, he accounts for 380 supplies. What? I say unplayable. I think it makes him unplayable outside of him expanding and being utilized on his own. You put a Super Bless on this guy, like bump his protection up, get him like some hard skin, get him up to like 30, do like a hard skin regeneration bless on him. So he, with the combination of all the earth magic that he's gonna have and the hard skin, he's up to like 30 protection. He's got 15% regeneration. He's got Swallow on Trample, and this guy will expand for days and days and days and days and days on his own. And if you do it right with Corpse Eater 4, right? As he's expanding, he's killing things, and his hit points are just growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And he would become a monster. He absolutely would become a monster. But you could never put him with an army. I say you could never put him with an army. If you put him with an army, you had best have fucking supply items for that army out the ass. Out the ass. Otherwise, there's no way. There's just no way. But still, this, like, you legitimately could do this. So this guy is super OP. Articuno. This thing is really interesting for one real reason, and it's not really talked about here. So this is where I need to open up the mod inspector and make sure I'm actually checking the. Yeah, okay. So the shiny Articudo is mediocre stats, mediocre hit points. That's fine. I mean, for a god, for what we've been looking at. 2 water, got some interesting attacks, right? A bunch of ranged attacks. Ice Beam with 10 ammunition. Ice Shard with 30 ammunition. Blizzard with 5 ammunition. Interesting effects, etc. Chill 7, cold resistance 10, cold power, ice protection. You can get really high protection actually. Spreads cold, and this is something that's not talked about, or it's not shown here, right? I don't think it even says anything here. But most of these have an effect. Most of the legendaries have an effect of instantly casting a spell at the start of battle. And Articuno does Grip of Winter at the very beginning of every battle. And this is huge. This is immense, right? Having a Awake Expander do something, or not even an Awake Expander, just having a unit that does something like Grip of Winter at the start of a battle is intense. It's very intense. We've had a lot of discussions about how OP it is and what needs to change about it, etc., etc. I don't know in the end what the mod creator is really going to do. Because I think there are some scenarios where things like this are fine, but you have to compensate in other areas. I think it's a really cool effect for gods and legendaries and things like that, but it's something you have to be careful about balancing. So this is the kind of big shtick you're going to see from a lot of these is, what do they cast? And Shiny Articuno does Grip of Winter. So next up we have the Zapdos, right? And Zapdos does, as you might assume, does Storm. So at the start of every battle, Zapdos is going to do Storm. You'll see, again, there is a little bit of homogeneity, I guess, between their stats, right? 90, 16, 14, 14, 15, kind of similar there. Zapdos has Thunder, which is 5, does a whole lot of a very long range, armor negating Thunder Strike, has Thunderbolt, has Storm Power 5, and casts Storm, so is automatically going to get that Storm Power 5 every single time. Guaranteed. And has Storm Immunity, so can fly into the back of everything. This is something that you could build around, but you have to be careful because he is kind of fragile compared to something like a Snorlax. Okay? So you gotta watch out for that if you're gonna use him as like an Awake Expander. That's something to worry about. But mid-game, your first war, something like that, this type of god, super strong. Moltres. Alright, gonna look up Moltres. Okay, so Moltres does Heat from Hell. So, like the Articuno, does the opposite, right? Heat from Hell. Still gonna fatigue you out. Has very high fire resistance. Is actually the only, and this is something I think is kind of meh. Oh, never mind. So Articuno has weaknesses. Zapdos doesn't have any weaknesses for whatever reason, which I think he should, right? If Articuno are going to be weak, is going to be weak to shock and fire, then Zapdos should be weak to cold and fire, and Moltres should be weak. So it's kind of like the typing here. I get that the typing doesn't perfectly match, right? But we can only match the Pokemon typing so much, and then we have to think about the balance within the mod itself, right? So anyways, Moltres gets Heat, Flying, Fire Shield, which is very strong, Recuperation, which I don't think the other two get, so no Recuperation for these two. And it does make sense, right? Because Moltres is the Phoenix bird, right? So he recovers from his wounds. It's Firepower 2, which is inherently weaker than Storm 5. Or it matches Cold Power 2. And he spreads heat. So. Sky Attack is interesting, but not as strong as you might think it is because it only attacks once every 2 rounds. Solar Beam is awesome. Okay, so we've got Lugia, and Lugia is a fucking beast because Lugia does Wailing Winds. Simple as that. Matches the legendary birds in stats. Air, Water, Astral. So you can build off of these very well. Lugia is busted. I'm going to throw this out there right now. Lugia is busted. Regeneration 10, Amphibious, Flying, Recuperation, 999 Sailing, Storm Power 5. Again, Lugia is like a Chuck, right? Too many things, too spread out, too powerful, right? Regeneration 10. Snorlax only has Regeneration 5. Amphibious, but also Flying. And Sailing, 999, right? Has Recuperation like Moltres does. Has a better spread of paths. Has Storm Power 5 like Zapdos does. And Storm Immunity. And does Wailing Winds at the start of every battle, which is inherently probably one of the strongest spells in the game. Ooh, Lugia is so strong. So incredibly strong. Hydro Pump, bunch of ranged attacks, right? Hydro Pump, Sky Attack, and Aeroblast. Aeroblast is an area of effect 5. This is actually a really big deal. This thing will fuck units up. You can very easily expand with Lugia as an Awake Expander with a very minor Bless. Very strong unit. Ho-Oh! Is not as strong, if I'm remembering correctly, but still very, very strong. Not as strong as Lugia, but still very, very strong. Because Ho-Oh does life after death, which is good. This is really good. Fire, air, nature matches the legendary birds in stats. Regen 10 does have some weaknesses as far as resistances go. Fire 10. Dominion Immortality, which is very big. Recuperation Flying, Supply Bonus. Firepower 1, which is kind of an afterthought. Reinvigoration 3. Bringer of Fortune 20, which can be cool. And Spreads Fortune, which is kind of interesting, I guess, if you're like going neutral luck, or if you're going like really negative luck, you can have your Ho-Oh flying around, kind of boosting your luck here or there. I guess that's whatever. Sky Attack, Fire Blast, and Sacred Fire with a punishment, which is 3 times versus Undead, which is actually kind of cool. So 3 Undead or Demons, so depending on who you're up against. That's kind of cool. But yeah, Life After Death and Dominion Immortality are definitely the big ones for Ho-Oh. Okay, so those are kind of like our bird boys. We have our Regice and Registeel. There's Reggie Rock. We'll do all 3 of these. So let's take a look at these 3. Let me click these up real quick and get rid of my birds. My burbs. Alright, so shiny Regice. So Regice does Frostfend. Okay, and that's really cool. So start of a battle, Frostfend goes up. Everyone gets protection from cold. I actually have a Regice in the Pokemon Gold game right now. So we've got a Chill 10, Trample, Mindless, Floating, kind of weird. Water, Earth. We've got a Hyper Beam, Hyper Viper Beam, Ice Beam, and Superpower. Cool. Hits very hard. Problem with these is he is still Trample, right? He's a size 3 Trampler, so you're gonna run into the scenario where he's using his attacks way more than otherwise, right? But that is something to keep in mind. A lot of Pokemon are size 2 or size 1. So in those cases, your shiny Regice is not going to be using his super strong Hammer Arm or Superpower. He's just going to be trampling around. Okay? Very high stats, very high hit points, very high strength. Otherwise, meh stats. Okay? Magic resistances. Okay? Registeel does Weapons of Sharpness. He has a Hyper Beam, Flash Cannon, Superpower, and Hammer Arm. Air 1, Earth 1. Comes with inherent slash and pierce resistance. Very good protection, right? This is one of those guys where you can very easily turn him into an Awake Expander. He is mindless, which is very good. He is inanimate, which is less good. He does have Trampler. So. And then Reggie Rock is very similar to Registeel, honestly. But for whatever reason, right? 120 hit points. 120 hit points. Reggie Rock only has 60 hit points. And I don't know why. This is where one of those scenarios where this one is just inferior. Immediately. And he casts Marble Warriors at the start of battle. So his protection is going to get bumped. He is going to Marble Warriors himself. You can still turn him into an Awake Expander pretty easily. It's just, compared to Registeel, I just feel like he's inherently not as good. I don't know why. Okay, so that's kind of those 3. Next we have the Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza, kind of like in triplicate. So, grab those real quick. Kyogre. These 3 are pretty cool. Okay. So, Kyogre is Rain. So, start of every battle, you're going to get Rain from the Kyogre. Decent stats. very decent stats. You get water, astral, and nature. You can build a very interesting bless from water, astral, and nature. Has amphibious, has fear, flying, storm. Good skills. Origin Pulse is actually pretty strong because it's defense negates. So on a lot of units that are kind of lower defense, this has a huge area of effect. So it'll just and just squish units. Okay, so very cool there. But when it comes to like the battle spells, Rain is kind of on the inferior end compared to a lot of the other stuff you're getting. You can definitely make Kyogre into a perfectly serviceable god, a very cool god. Looks super awesome. However, it's not that awake expander that you're looking for unless you're going to put a lot of oomph into the bless. It's not that end all be all first war god. It's yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Rain is kind of a as far as the starter spells go. Groudon gets Heat from Hell. So Heat from Hell is same thing as what Moltres gets, right? You're gonna exhaust, you're gonna fatigue your enemies out. Very big deal. Very good stats, high hit points, very good magic resistance, fire, earth, and nature. Built-in regeneration, which Kyogre does not get. Okay. Built-in fear, which Kyogre does get. I thought he didn't. Sorry. And he's got some pretty good attacks. Solar Beam and Fire Blast are pretty good. Armor Negate or Armor Piercing. So those are both strong. Precipice Blades is kind of like Origin Pulse. Gonna wipe out units around him. Very, very strong. And Hammer Arm is just a nice solid punch. So Groudon, you absolutely can easily turn into that kind of Awake Expander. Especially if you have a halfway decent bless on him. Rayquaza does Aerovend. Actually, which I think is a little weird. I think the theming is perfectly fine. I just think it's not what you might expect when you go Rayquaza, right? Rayquaza does Aerofend, can be very, very useful in that first war against whoever you're going up against. But Air and Death, super useful for something like Welling Winds. Nature, very good paths to turn something up with Rayquaza. Has Regeneration, has Fear, 6, has Cold-Blooded, which can be an issue, has Storm Power 6, which is crazy strong. Hyper Beam, very good. Hyper Voice is kind of the Origin Pulse or Precipice Blades scenario for Rayquaza. And then you have Dragon Ascent and Crunch. So you can turn Rayquaza into an Awake Expander. I think Groudon is kind of the better version there. But I think Rayquaza scales better into the late game with the pathing that he has. And Aerofend can be extremely useful in your first couple wars. It can be very useful all throughout the game. Especially Pokemon, there's a lot of range in Pokemon. So very interesting little scenario with these three. All right, we're gonna skip Machamp right now. We're gonna include him in the kind of like the Hitmon tops scenarios. We'll talk about the legendary puppers real quick. We got Suicune, Inti, and where the fuck the third one? What is the third one? Oh, Raikou. Gotcha. I thought this was going to be a short video, but I'm actually really enjoying this. So this is going to be like 39 hours long. Sorry about that. if you don't care, that's fine. So the dogs are interesting. So Suicune is a grip of winter. So this is kind of a mirror to the dogs are kind of a mirror to the birds, right? As they were originally intended to be, right? That's kind of the shtick with them. Suicune is grip of winter, just like Articuno is. Has fear, has a chill aura, has high cold resistance, has cold power, but also has storm immunity for some reason. And I'm not really sure why that is. Water and nature. Decent-ish stats. Not as decent as the birds, but you'll see the dogs are all just a little cheaper than the burbs. So, yeah. Suicune. Interesting. Inte is Heat from Hell. Fear, Fire Resistance, Heat, Fire Shield, Firepower. Inte and Suicune are both 140. Raikou is 120, so he's your cheapest bet, depending on what you're going for. So Bubble Beam, Blizzard, Hydro Pump, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Stomp, and Fire Fang. The dogs are interesting. They're just cheaper birds, right? Is the scenario. It's so if you wanted kind of what the birds are offering with their starter spells, with like Grip of Winter, Heat from Hell, and Storm, if you wanted that, but if you wanted it cheaper and with spread paths, right? I don't want 2 water, I want water and nature for whatever bless I'm doing. Okay, go Suicune instead of going Articuno, right? It's gonna do the same thing for you. It's still not gonna be a very good like Awake Expander. It's gonna be something else for you, right? That's what the dogs are. Raikou is air and astral. Raikou does storm. You got thunder, you've got discharge, you've got quick attack, and you've got thunder fang. So storm power 4, Tier 5. Latios and Latias are they are less interesting than I would want them to be. I think they're very cool Pokemon. I think they're less cool Pokemon mod Pokemon. So they're very expensive, okay? They've got I haven't really been talking about price on some of these. I think like Reggie Steel's way more expensive than Reggie Ice. Reggie Rock is pretty cheap. But you look at some of the prices for these, like Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, big, huge paths, regeneration, big battlefield-wide effects, right? They're the same price as Latios and Latias. Their stats are pretty much inferior across the board. They have lower stats, generally speaking, or the same. They have lower hit points. I think they have higher magic resistance. They do. They have 1 point higher magic resistance. Okay, whatever. Right? But they're getting traded for stuff. But the real question is what do they cast? They cast Quickening, which, do not get me wrong, Quickening can be very useful. In fact, I've been using it. But it's compared to a battlefield spell like Life After Death or Wailing Winds, right? Those are obviously like S tiers, right? Heat from Hell and Grip of Winter, those are pretty strong. Aerofend, things like that. Those are Aerofend Storm. Those are good, right? Very situationally useful and desirable. Quickening is nice, but it's just like, okay, it's just Quickening. Like, so immediately Quickening comes down. Whenever you have Latias, it's Fire 1, Astral 1, which is an interesting spread depending on what you're doing. Has Regeneration, has all 1, Poison Resist 5, Flying, Floating, Invisible is actually really cool, and Glamour is actually really cool. Stat-wise, they're not crazy strong, so you could try to like build them into this defense, like more of like an Elfer, right, type scenario. Depending on the stats you want to take, but that's pretty difficult to do. And then if you wanted to use them as an Awake Expander, when they go out, they quicken themselves. in quickening themselves, they do a bunch. They do a bunch, I will say that, with their Mist Ball, Dragon Breath, Psychic, right? Psychic and Mist Ball are going to shred things as they come into range, and as soon as something gets into range, it's Dragon Breath. It's pretty intense. I will freely admit that. They seem really cool. They just seem very expensive, and stat-wise, I do not know why they are so inferior to some of the other things. Like, I feel like Latios and Latias are kind of like on the same scale as the legendary birds, right? Or they're the same scale as the trio. But their stats leave something to be desired as far as I'm concerned. Latios is very similar to Latias. He also... I don't remember which is which. I don't remember if they're both... I don't know, actually. Latios does quickening as well. Water and Astral instead of Fire and Astral. Pretty much not even pretty much. The exact same stats. The exact same skills. Different abilities. So instead of Mist Ball, Latios gets Luster Purge, which I think does pretty much the same thing. So it's called a different thing, but I think stat-wise it does exactly the same thing. So the only real difference between these two, which I think is a damn shame, is that one is fire and one is water. That seems a little sad to me. These two, I think, are a bit of a disappointment. Okay? Alright. Let's do Hitmontop, Hitmonlee, and Hitmonchan, and we'll throw in Machamp in there because it's kind of a similar fighting situation. Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Hitmontop, and we'll grab Machamp as well. So, these do not actually have a spell that they cast. They are just the base units. So Hitmonlee, Hitmontop, and Hitmonchan are interesting in that they are decent-ish chassis. But they... I'm going to make a quick statement here. Don't at me, bro. They kind of suck. Like, truth be told, they kind of suck. Don't give me... you can build them into something. What I'm saying is they suck comparatively. This is 150 points, right? Let's check at something. So 150 points for a Hitmontop, 140 points for an Entei. An Entei does Heat from Hell, has 80 hit points. A Hitmontop has 64 hit points. 13, 16, 16, 12. 15, 13, 13, 14. Comparable stats, right? Fear, Fire Shield, Heat, Stealthy 85, and Glamour. Reinvigoration 2. Alright, I guess that's comparable. So you're getting something that is comparable-ish stat line-wise. Comparable-ish path-wise, right? But this one casts a battlefield-wide spell at the start of every combat, and this one doesn't. That's straight up. Fuck that. Fuck that. And it's the same thing with every single one of these. With the Hitmonlee, it's the same scenario, right? You can kind of be comparative to the Raikou. With the Hitmonchan, the same scenario, right? Bunch of punches, really cool. Less pathing. Actually, I don't know why this is less pathing, and significantly, like less path, one less path, 70 more points for the Hitmonchan. Stat-wise is the same. I don't know, siege bonus is worth that much? I don't know, the Hitmonchan is 1000% inferior compared to everything else. This is garbage. Absolute garbage. So these are huge disappointments. And I get it. I get they're not legendary Pokemon. That's fine. I have zero issue with them being with the whole legendary Pokemon. But if this is the scale, right? If this is what we're matched up against, then this Hitmontop needs to be like 80 points. Like this Hitmonlee needs to be like 90 points. This Hitmonchan, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is 210 points. What are you getting for this? What does this even do for you? I guess, okay, I will say this is 20 paths for new magic. That seems so weird. Why? Why do I care about that? If I want magic paths at 20, come up here and get a Titan. This is 210, right? All of the Titans are like 300-ish, and they have crazy abilities. So I guess if you're not looking for a crazy ability Titan, and you want the paths, right? You want the be able to boost the paths. Then take one of the little rainbows. What are you? Well, actually, these are really expensive. Why are these so expensive? I don't know. I don't understand the Hitmonchan scenario. I really don't. Machamp is also in that vein. Now, the Machamp, I will say, is stat-wise significantly better than the Hitmons, than the whole line of them, right? Really good stats, really good hit points, very good protection, stupid high strength, very good attack skill and defense, right? Doesn't really have a ability score line, right? It's not a Titan, again, in that scenario. I feel like the Machamp is, if you're comparing it to the Hitmons, it's incredibly good, right? It's so good compared to them. But compared to a Titan, right? Like, compare that to Chuck, right? Titan of the Storm. 300 points, 260 points. Chuck has more HP. The Machamp has way more attack, but otherwise their stats are relatively comparable, okay? But the Machamp has garbage slots because it's a Pokemon champion, okay? So it only has a helmet and 3 miscellaneous slots. Chuck has full slots. He has better paths, more and better paths. He has a bunch of different abilities, right? And he has 20 path cost for new paths, whereas the Machamp has 80. So compared to the Hitmons, this Machamp is awesome. Yeah, he's great. Compared to the Titans, he's trash. And as an Awake Expander, right? Can you build this guy to do the job of any of these other Awake Expanders? Absolutely, you can. But they cast a spell at this. They cast a spell at the start of their combats. He doesn't. Or Snorlax. Just Snorlax. Okay. Just Snorlax. Just do the Snorlax. That instead. So that is a random bitch fit that I had to throw for the Machamp and the Hitmons. I do not like them. They make me very sad. They make me very, very sad. Okay, so next up we have Mew and Mewtwo, and then we'll get into Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys. Okay, so we'll do Mew and Mewtwo first. Shiny Mew, Shiny Mewtwo. These two are also a bit of a disappointment. Because they don't cast a spell. They do not have a battle start spell. And I think that's a damn shame. Considering for me, right, you have the legendary birds are from Gen 1, right? You have all of these legendaries. They have these crazy starter spells. For me, Mew and Mewtwo were the kind of like the starting Pokemon gods. Obviously, like, Mewtwo is not a god. And don't fight me over lore or anything like that, please. I'm not making statements. I'm saying as a kid when I was playing Red, right? I played Red. No, I played Blue. When I was playing Blue, these were the Pokemon that you were like, oh my god, you got a Mewtwo, and then we would tell stories about how do you get a Mew, blah 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 blah, right? these were the gods of Gen 1. They really were. And they don't cast shit. And they're not that great. 270, 46 hit points. Good stats by the vanilla base game, sure. But compared to what we've been seeing, these are very mediocre. They are Pokemon champions, so they are locked to the head and 3 miscellaneous slots. We have 2 Astral, 10 Regeneration. Now, I will say the abilities for Mewtwo, pretty good. 10 Regeneration, 5 Fear, 1 Awe, 20 Invulnerability, 15 Resistance, Flying, Air Shield 50, Dark Vision 100, Teleport, Blink, and Magic Power. Has a Psybeam, which is pretty good. Psychic, which is also pretty good. I say pretty good. Psychic is awesome. Confuse Ray, which is it's okay. It's kind of meh, whatever actually. And Headbutt, which is decent. These are cool. These are cool attacks. These are cool abilities. This is shitty. This is a shitty stat line for 270 points to cast nothing. What? Why? Because he's map move 100? This is... So what? What are you going to do with him? What are you going to put on him? He's just going to die. This is so... This makes me sad. This makes me really sad. When I first jumped into the game, I was like, oh man, let's go look at... Oh, Mewtwo! And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I found out they don't cast anything. They don't cast anything. And they're the Astral Boys. They should be in here casting like Arcane fucking Maelstrom or whatever it is. Right? They should be doing some crazy shit like... No. Mewtwo and Mew do nothing. Now, here's the other sad thing, is Mewtwo and Mew's stat lines really are not significantly different. Okay? They are both teleporters, they're both Blink, they're both Magic Power 1, they're both Air Shield 50, they're both Flyers, they both have Invulnerability 20, they both, Mew has better Awe, but they both have Awe and Regeneration, right? Mew does not have Fear, he does have Amphibious, and he has 1 point less in Astral. Like, what the fuck? He cost 20 more, but he has 1 point less in Astral. And his stats are whatever. He has Thunder, Fire Blast, Bubble Beam, and Mega Punch. But what is the big thing for Mew? Big thing for Mew is he has 10 path cost, 10 new path cost. So he has 1 in Astral, but you can get 1 in everything with him. You can Rainbow him. And Mew probably after looking at everything, Mew is probably one of your best options for a Rainbow Mage, which is kind of sad because most Rainbow Mages should only be costing around like 80 to 100, depending on what else you're getting with it. But for whatever reason, these guys are very expensive, so Mew actually is not a bad option if you want to go for a Rainbow Mage. But I just feel like Mew and Mewtwo are in such a sad state compared to a lot of the others. So let's actually finish up and look at Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys. Okay, so these ones are awesome. I'm gonna say. So Celebi, we come in. Celebi does mass regeneration. Celebi's amazing. Celebi costs 90 points less than Mew does, has the same stats as Mew, and casts mass regeneration. Win. Done. Does new paths do cost 80? Whatever. Fine. But you're taking Celebi. You're probably gonna, if you're gonna take something like Celebi, you're probably gonna take something like Celebi as dormant or imprisoned to come out in the mid or late game, so that you can just throw it into your a Doom stack and instantly fucking mass regeneration everything. And you may have a big bless that you bring along with that, or you may have like a little mediocre bless that you bring along with that. It's kind of whatever, doesn't matter. Stat wise, we don't. It's uninspiring. Regeneration, flying, force survival, recuperation, supply bonus, void sanity. Okay, this I feel like would matter more if there was actually some sort of void mechanic with the Pokemon, but as far as I've seen, there isn't. Magic power and spread growth. I think spread growth is kind of, it's useless, honestly. Everyone's gonna take growth except for Ecruteak, so whatever. Like, that just doesn't, it's not gonna do anything. Celebi does have some cool abilities. Confusion is okay, it's armor negating. It does do confusion. It's got a lot of ammunition. Magical Leaf is kind of cool, got a lot of ammunition. Does armor piercing. Leech Seed is armor negating. Not as much ammunition, but very low damage. And Leaf Storm does 3 attacks and is armor piercing. So that's kind of cool. Those are cool abilities. You really don't want this thing in melee, so it's good that it has 3 ranged attacks. You're probably going to have it casting spells, though, so it's probably not going to take advantage of these ranged attacks. But you really just want it for mass regeneration. Just like you really just want Jirachi for Will of the Fates. So, Will of the Fates is the battlefield-wide luck. Okay, so stats are basically identical to Celebi. 30 points less, but you're getting luck instead of regeneration. You get regeneration / pierce, fire susceptibility, poison resistance, bringer fortune 50, and magic power. These are cool units. These are units that you can do something with, you can have a little gimmick with, that's fine. Doom Desire is actually an interesting effect, because it has a massive area of effect, and it's 100 range. So this one is pretty cool, hits like a truck. Psychic is very good. Meteor Mash and Zen Headbutt are actually pretty potent, and because Jirachi comes in with built-in slash and pierce resistance, and is an Earth Mage, whereas Celebi is not. Jirachi, you could, depending on the bless you take, you could kind of like put some buffs on him, and kit him out with a little bit of gear, and actually make him semi-threatening to deal with. But again, he is just here to cast, he's really just here to cast Will of the Fates. Deoxys. Pretty much the same stat line. 90 more points than the Celebi. Pretty much the same stat line, a little bit better. Deoxys does Rigor Mortis, and that's a big deal. So the other thing with Deoxys is a shape changer. So Deoxys shape changes into the different if you're familiar with Deoxys, it's the speed form, attack form, and defense form. So those forms are here. They do exist. You can't really see them here. You can't view them. But basically, they are what you would expect them to be. The speed form has very high defense skill to be dodgy, right? The attack form has very high attack skill and strength. The defense form has very high protection and magic resistance, okay? And otherwise, I think they share the same abilities, right? The abilities do not change, the attacks do not change, and the abilities do not change. So regeneration, undead, poison resistance, right? Flying, stealthy, invisible, which is really cool. Recuperation, spirit sight, magic power, death power, and spread death. So Deoxys, I could see being another option for like Ecruteak. If you're gonna do that, big death scenario, pretty cool. You can definitely get a bless going for Deoxys to make it to where you can kill the shit out of everything as like an Awake Expander. You can do, especially with Rigor Mortis, you can set Deoxys up in speed form to be very much like an elf that is unkillable, right? In combination with things like invisibility and very high defense, is just super hard to kill with built-in regeneration. And everything just fatigues out, and then Deoxys kills it. Simple, easy. So Deoxys comes with Psycho Boost, armor negating attack, Hyper Beam, which is only once every 2 rounds, but it does fucking damage. You've seen these on, maybe you haven't seen this yet, but this is what the Aerodactyls have. You'll see later on in the game versus Pewter City. Psychic is very good, it's armor negating, and then Zen Headbutt we've seen before. So Deoxys is pretty cool. Deoxys is something I could see building a game around. The price is pretty steep, but the paths, actually, you can spread a little bit. Deoxys is at least interesting, and Rigor Mortis is very strong. So with Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys, we've got Mass Regeneration, Will of the Fates, and Rigor Mortis. These are all powerful spells. I think and then after we just get some random stuff. I think after this, right, I think the many different cities have, like the Hitmons and the Machamps. Those are Cyanwood specific, but most of the other cities have this spread. They'll have their own special ones. Like, I remember Azalea has some Butterfrees and, what's the Beedrill, right? They have those. So those are interesting, right? But really the standouts here, as far as kind of like big battlefield spells, are the Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys. And then the Lugia and Ho-Oh are also very, very strong with the Wailing Winds and Life After Death, right? I think the birds and the dogs have a place. They're pretty cool. I think the Reggies are kind of weak. I think the Latioses and Latias are very weak. I think the Kyogre, I think the trio, Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza, are okay. They could definitely be usable. Kyogre, I think, is the weakest by far. I think Mewtwo and Mew are in a sorry, sad state, and I pity them. And I think Snorlax is secret OP, as long as you never put him with an army. And then you have every nation has their specials, their what they would be rainbows, but they're kind of trash. They're incredibly expensive. So what you would want to use them for, as far as like a rainbow goes, is really hard to do, right? They're very, very high priced. Mediocrely aggressive stats compared to a lot of the other stuff that you've seen, you know? And they have this little entourage that comes with them, but this entourage is not enough to Awake Expand on their own with these stats unless you have an aggressive Bless. Which you can take, right? If you rainbow them, you can put a pretty interesting rainbow Bless on them and go from there. And I guess depending on what your sacreds are, you could try to benefit from that. I just feel like if you're gonna go for something like that, a badge is generally probably gonna be a better bet for you to try to do that. It's way cheaper. You're gonna spend the extra points unlocking paths, but then you're gonna get much higher Dominion off base, and you're gonna get a very serviceable, defensible option that you can do things with. Whereas these are frail, fragile little bitches that will die. I mean, you can kit them out, sure, but I'm very unimpressed by all of the Dominion 1 options that I have seen with the Pokemon. I think the stat line that is given to them, right, should probably be nerfed a little bit. I think the amount of Pokemon they have should probably be maybe decreased. They don't really have abilities, so I wouldn't really worry about them. But I think this price could be dropped to like half of what it is. And with a stat decrease, it would be perfectly fine. And then they'd be useful. They would be serviceable rainbow chassis. So this video has gone on way longer than I had originally intended. I thought this was only going to be like a 20-30 minute video. I was just going to talk about some of the basic things. I think do keep in mind, right, that this patch, this particular version of the mod is pretty old. This is like 6 or 7 months old at this point, I believe. from when we started. So there are many new iterations. A lot of this is probably different. The mod creator has continued to do a lot of work based off of what we have discovered in the multiplayer game that we are doing, a lot of testing work, etc., etc. I do not know that a lot of that work goes down to gods. I don't know what all has been changed there, but this is kind of a cursory look at the pretenders from the current patch that I am playing on. So, hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.